Kia ora and welcome to Point of View. My name is Tom Augustine. Thank you so much for being with us today. This is your monthly podcast where you can find out about what's coming up on the big screen, on streaming, wherever you get your viewing material. Today we have a very special guest here in the office. We're talking to Edward Sampson. He is a Tamaki Makaurau-based filmmaker whose debut film Devils on Horses is premiering at the Dock Edge Film Festival. This is a really special film about the relationship between man and horse in World War One. So stick around for that and to find out what's coming up. Edward Sampson is a filmmaker based here in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. His new film, Devils on Horses, is premiering at the Dock Edge Festival. I mean, you had a screening last night, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So we had our world premiere last night. We had a couple of horses turn up for the screening, which...
I love that.
Totally different for Dock Edge Film Festival, and everybody loved the horses being there.
Oh, I mean, I bet.
And we had a couple of young lads, Wayne McCormick's sons on the horses, dressed in the World War One uniforms.
Fantastic.
On there, and we even took the horse into the cinema.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How did that go?
Really, really good. Everybody loved it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, the horse on the red carpet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, well, no, it makes sense for this film.
Yeah.
I have watched it the other day and I thought it was a really, really beautiful thing. There's been a lot of coverage of the wars over the years, but I do feel like this is something that an aspect of the story of the war that hasn't been told very much. And so, to start, tell us what Devils on Horses is about.
So Devils on Horses is about the Sinai-Palestine campaign during the First World War, and it's about the relationship between soldier and horse and well-being. So for us, we didn't really concentrate on the war side of that campaign. We do mention it, but we were looking at the relationship between soldier and horse because that's something different that hasn't been really told, and that campaign is a forgotten campaign because everybody concentrates on the Western Front, which was a bloodbath for 4 years, but the Sinai-Palestine campaign was over vast areas, and when there were conflict with the Turkish or the Germans, there would either be 2 or 3 day conflicts and the skirmish was over, and they'd be quiet for the next 1 or 2 months. So that's what that campaign was about. And the difference between those two campaigns big time was the boys in Sinai-Palestine, Australians, the Kiwis, the Indians were over there as well, had horses. And that's the difference. So the horse was your best mate. And that's what we portray in the film.
And, it is really, really interesting that bond between man and horse is very, very powerful. There's an image in the film of giving water to the horse in the hat. And I remember because... I have a cowboy hat from Texas with an image of that same thing, and I always thought it was a very moving image, and this was the first time I've seen it on screen. And it really symbolizes this bond, which is very, very powerfully kind of rendered in the film. What was it that drew you to telling this story? This is your debut, so what made you want to debut with this story?
I got sucked in, pretty much. So my partner on the project, Terry Kingy, he... sort of dragged me along into the project. I love history. I think history should be told for the truth, good or bad. And I was fascinated by that part of that story. And Terry had a little bit of a filmmaker's background, but my background as a filmmaker. I come from post-production, so I understood a lot of the stuff. And I said, sweet, I'm keen to get involved. And did a lot of reading, and then we reached out to people in New Zealand, the professors, and that's when the ball really started rolling. And we started shooting interviews back in 2020 after COVID. COVID did stop us a couple of times. Well, Auckland got locked down twice. Then we picked up some more interviews in 22, and then I started shaping the story. So I knew what we wanted in the story. It was definitely the horses. We're not going to do the battles because, one, we don't have the finance to do those large-scale battles. And if anybody wants to watch another really good film is the Australia White Horseman, which is fantastic. So let's concentrate on that relationship because people respond more to animals than to human beings for some reason. And the simple reason I think it is animals don't judge you. Human beings judge you in the first 10 seconds. Whereas an animal, a horse, say, and a dog, we can take those 4-legged animals, will sense or feeling, come over you, brush their tail against you, or rub their head against you because they're feeling all the emotion, and that's what we're trying to portray in the film.
And it's there, absolutely. I mean, just in those very soulful shots of the eyes of the horses throughout are very, very moving, and the relationship that you capture between these soldiers and the horses. Now, it's a mix of interviews and recreational footage and historical footage.
Correct.
So. And I think it blends really, really well. Let's start with the recreation footage, because obviously that is something that, off the back of something that is independently financed, probably was a bit of a challenge. So can you tell us about what your kind of process of getting that put together was?
So, because I was editing the project, so I had a treatment. I broke down the story beats into the film, and I go, okay, what do we need to help tell visuals? Because at the end of the day, when you're making a doco, you want to be visually, and because you don't want it to be a radio edit. So what a radio edit is that you can walk away from the documentary, go to the kitchen, and you hear everything going down.
Yeah, right.
But we want to make it visual. So start cutting it, and then archive material start coming in, which I was able to secure. Okay, I like that picture, and there was about 3 or 4 pictures in the film that we wanted. So Terry said to me, hey, let's get the boys swimming naked, because that's what happened over there.
Yeah.
Let's get the boys swimming in the river with the horses. That hadn't been done before in New Zealand and Australia. And we had photographs of the beach, the river, then Casey's underneath the horse, so let's recreate that one. And then Logan, there was maybe of being a picture of Logan, someone with a hat.
Yeah, right.
Well, Terry used to mention to me, so well, let's get those key scenes. And what we did was shoot those reenactments, and I slowly cut them in. But we're making up on the fly for the reenactments. I knew what I wanted in my head. And when we went to certain locations, like the train scene that was shot in Ashburton,
right.
Plains Railway Trace. So I don't know how a train came in. So I Terry said something to me. He goes, Ed, should we do a train? Okay. Why not? Now, you got horses, you got a steam train, period, on location. There's no AI here. You're doing it for real. So this is the fun part. And everybody loved the train scene. But at the same time, they were desensitizing the horses to get used to the train sound. And here's a really interesting story, which I just found out yesterday. Because while I was filming Sophie at the railway station, which is all compact.
That's your daughter who plays one of the characters in the film.
So Sophie's my daughter. She, I conned her in, well, pretty much just told her she's in it. But it was a good learning curve for her. She really, really enjoyed it. So we're filming her scene using a smoke machine, like 10 minutes the train. And Casey was on his horse, Freddie, which is what that Sophie's on, Freddie, in real life, on the horse. And Freddie stopped, pause, when he saw the steam train, turned around, and Casey said to me he thought Freddie was going to balk.
Oh, wow.
And then he saw his other mate, Jacko, the horse, on the railway tracks, and he goes, oh, okay, it must be safe. And then he carry on. So obviously those horses that Terry runs through the trust fund, they all stick together like a little bond. So they're all like a really tight packed group.
Oh, fantastic. And I mean, like, the sense of scale is definitely there, even for, like, as you say, an independently financed film. I mean, having a steam train, having multiple horses, etc., scenes of combat, period. And so pulling it all together must have been a bit of a challenge. I mean, I am particularly interested in how you arrived at having so many horses and where they came from and how you managed to secure that.
So my partner Terry, he runs a rehab program in the South Island. So the rehab program is Anzac Charitable Trust. So basically what this rehab program is only for males who suffer from, say, PTSD, so say ex-defence, police, ambulance crews. And what they do is they take those horses up to the mountains for 3 or 4 days with the patient, and no phones, and the horses sense their the emotions, and the success rate for that program is about 80%. So it just takes them to a different location, and they talk about, because Terry's come from that background himself.
Yeah, right.
And also those horses you may have seen at certain Anzac parades, you see the horses, they've turned up. So that's where those horses also get used as well.
Yeah.
So the horses are well trained for what they do for Anzac parades, but also for what we're doing. So that's how those horses got involved.
Right.
And Terry's great-great-granddad was in the Canterbury Mountain Rifle Regiment. So that's how this story all came about. Yeah.
Well, there's this very rich thread all the way through of the relationship between man and horse within a military context that goes all the way back to there, and you feel it in the film as well. And I mean, what do you think it is that makes that connection between the man and horse so kind of spiritual and intense and powerful?
I think because it goes back 5,000 years where man tamed horse to a certain degree. Horses been around that long. It was our transportation up to the early 20th century. It continued and it's still used today. Now, today, horses are on the farm.
Yeah.
They're like a pet. Whereas going back 100 years ago, they were more like that was all transportation that allowed mankind or humans to travel for vast distance. Was in a day we can walk all day, but we can't run all day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Whereas a horse, yeah. But here's an interesting thing. For some reason people think that the soldiers are on their horses all the time. No, they spent a lot of the time walking with the horses.
Yeah.
Just to ease the back of the horses.
The burden,
the burden. Because all, as we mentioned, the doco, for all that weight, it's about 130 kg on the horses.
Yeah.
And the horses always came first. Before you had the breakfast.
That was the thing I found really powerful about the film, is that I feel like they are always the afterthought, the thing that you kind of take for granted in other war stories. And that was very, very powerful, I think, was the reveal that no, they came first. That speaks to that bond very, very powerfully.
Yeah, exactly. So, the horse came first. So you looked after the horse, and once you feed the horse, clean the horse, then you can go have the breakfast.
Yeah, right.
So that was priority, which makes sense because without the horse, you pretty much stuffed in the desert. You are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me about, there's some incredible archival footage in this film as well. So where was that sourced from? I mean, you were telling me before that some of it had not been seen before on screen.
Yeah, so basically I'm in the Navy Reserves. I had to go to 6th Battalion, which is Arch Hill in Auckland, Grayland. Went there for like a little meet and greet thing. And I was talking to the old soldiers there. I was talking about the film. I was showing like a little promo that we cut at the time. And then one of the guys go, well, talk to this person, and I spoke to a guy called Don, who's in his 80s. And Don said, I got these World War I images. So I went around his place, saw them, they had been digitally captured, and he goes, here you go, use them.
Wow.
They just give the credit to the guy who actually originally took them. And those images were fantastic.
Yeah.
And what I also did with the World War I images, I used a software called Topaz. It's the AI software. And what that software does is enhances the pictures, reduces does face recognition, so you try and bring up the faces, more clarity. But it's a catch-22 where if you go too far, it looks pretty bad. So you try and balance that out. And then what we did in post is we added in the film grain.
Right.
You strip the grain, but you add the grain back in, if that makes sense.
Right.
So we try and then at the same time also cleaning up those images so those images look brand new, they were shot yesterday. They were shot on a little Browning camera, which is really small.
Yeah, out there in the elements as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like it would have been
And I think, my personal opinion, I think those troops should be, and men and women should be shown to what they really were, nice and clear pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I never liked having dirt on the pictures.
Yeah, I get you. Absolutely. And so now, the other thing I did want to ask you about was the presence of the actors in the film, because I understand that you had an entirely non-actor cast. So what was the process of finding these men who played your soldiers, because they turned in some really powerful performances?
So that's a really interesting question that's popped up, and I thought about this question. So the boys, Logan, Casey, they're all been part of that rehab program. They've worked on the rehab program, and they're all professional riders. They know the horses. So I think that comes across the screen really naturally when they do talk to their horse, where they pat their horses, because they know their horse. And the second thing is, I think it's got to do a bit of direction for me. My first AD sort of telling what to do. And the third thing I believe was it just looks natural.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the scene right at the beginning of the film, one of the soldiers has to shoot his horse.
Oh yeah, Casey. Yeah.
And I mean, it must be the relationship between man and horse that brings something out of him that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and the boys love the horses.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, naturally.
Yes.
So now the film is showing at Dock Edge.
Yes.
What is your hope for the film? What would you like to see happen with the film in terms of like getting out into the world?
So basically, at the moment, I've submitted the film to various film festivals around the world.
Yep.
So I'd like to see that go into those film festivals because it helps promote.
Yep.
And then goal was to attach a distribution company, and reality is like TV or streaming services. That's the main goal.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. But this is it's a great place to start.
It is
with the like kind of big national festival like Dock Edge, and one with such pedigree as well.
Well, the film's been nominated for 5 awards at Dock Edge. So
fantastic.
Best director, editing, producing.
Excellent.
Sound. The sound's fantastic in the cinema, the 5.1. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can only imagine. That's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Edward, this is a really, really special film, and I think it tells a very, very important story. So, really appreciate you for putting it together and coming to chat to us today as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, and thanks for having me on the show. Most appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, mate.
Cool. Cheers, bro.
Cheers. On the big screen in July, it's summer over in America, which means that all the big summer blockbusters are about to arrive here in New Zealand as well. And we have a whole bunch of them dropping this month. Kicking off at the beginning of the month is Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, this one is a bit of a reboot of a reboot of a reboot of Jurassic Park, but the scuttlebutt is that it's actually a bit of a return to form. It's got really solid cast. Scarlett Johansson is headlining. It also features Mahershala Ali, who is somehow still underutilized as an actor in the Hollywood firmament. It looks like a lot of fun. So that one is dropping right at the beginning of the month. Now, one of the big films that everyone's going to have their eyes on at the beginning of this month as well is the long-awaited arrival of James Gunn's Superman movie. Now, this is a new beginning to the Warner Brothers DC superhero stable. James Gunn, obviously the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, a filmmaker that I've liked a lot of his stuff in the past, and honestly the trailers for Superman are quite promising, particularly seeing them on a big screen in a cinema gives me a bit of hope for what we might see out of this film, so eyes peeled for that. On the children's side of things, it looks like the biggest film that's going to be dropping is the new Smurfs movie. So this one continues the Smurfs series. Listen, I haven't watched these films. The promotion of this film leans very hard on the fact that Rihanna is playing Smurfette. I don't know if that does something for you, then head along to that one. I think I'll probably be giving that one a miss, personally. Another one that I'm probably going to give a miss is a film called Bride Hard. Now, this is one of the worst reviewed films of the year. It is a action romantic comedy with Rebel Wilson in the lead. Decent cast, but look, if you go and watch the trailer for that one, you probably see what I mean. It does not look promising. But there is a comedy that's coming up which does look promising. This one is called Friendship, and it's got Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd in the lead. Now, if you've never seen I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson on Netflix, where have you been? It is a very, very special comedy series. It is completely bizarre and very silly and has kind of dominated the zeitgeist for a few years. This is Tim Robinson's big leap to feature filmmaking, and I, for one, am very, very excited to see what he does with it. He is a really, really kooky on-screen presence, and having Paul Rudd there as well, that's just icing on the cake. So very, very excited to see what he does there. Universal Language. Now, this is a much smaller film. It's a film that I don't know how much it will go here in New Zealand, but I think it is really, really worth a look. It is a film that imagines a an alternative world in which Canada, the primary language is Persian, and it's playing on the films of Abbas Kiarostami. Now, if you don't know the films of Abbas Kiarostami, he is one of the greatest ever filmmakers to my mind. He directed Taste of Cherry and a bunch of other really great films. Close Up, Where's the Friend's Home? If you've never seen an Abbas Kiarostami film, you need to amend that immediately. Now, this film is kind of a dedicated to his style of filmmaking. It's kind of offbeat, slightly comedic, but also very kind of gentle and moving as well. It should be a very, very powerful experience on screen. Now, also coming out this month is the return of another horror series that has its pedigree way back in the 90s. I Know What You Did Last Summer. So the return of the I Know What You Did Last Summer series. And it brings back Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., as well as a bunch of new young things to get murdered. The trailers honestly look like a lot of fun, as the original was as well. It looks goofy, but it also looks like it probably knows that it's meant to be a little bit goofy. So, listen, a throwaway summer thriller, you could do a lot worse, I think. Another big superhero film that people will have their eyes on this month, Fantastic Four: First Steps. Again, as with Superman, it feels like superhero movies in general, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe is at a real inflection point. And this film, I think there's a lot riding on the shoulders of this film. It has got a really strong cast. The trailers have been promising. They haven't been amazing, but they've been promising. I think the casting is really strong. So that is promising, but we will see how it comes together. Early word is that the film maybe is a little bit more of the same, which is definitely not what Marvel needs. They need something that feels really fresh and new and reinvigorates people's interest, especially after the flop that was Thunderbolts, which was actually not a bad film, but it looks like it's a bit of a financial failure for them. Now, Life of Chuck, this is a really, really interesting film as well. This one is based on a Stephen King short story. Now, I love Stephen King, but Stephen King has two modes. He has the most terrifying horror that you can imagine and like real schmaltz, and it looks like this one is heading towards the schmaltzy side of things, but it is directed by Mike Flanagan, and Mike Flanagan is a really, really interesting filmmaker. He made one of the great Stephen King adaptations, Dr. Sleep, which I think was a hugely underrated film. You also might know him from Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Hill House and all these other Netflix series that are very scary. So this one is not a horror. It's got Tom Hiddleston in the lead, and it looks very, very interesting and different. It won a big festival prize last year. There was a lot of Oscar buzz around it. They've kind of bungled the release a little bit, it seems, because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of buzz. It flopped at cinemas in America. That said, I will be watching, and I think it's probably worth a look as well. Together is a horror film that is coming to us from Australia, but has two American leads, Dave Franco and Alison Brie, both very talented actors. This one is kind of a offbeat body horror by the looks of it. Body horror is very in right now. After The Substance, there's another film called The Ugly Stepsister, which we should keep an eye out for, which will hopefully show up on New Zealand screens sometime soon. This one seems to have kind of a fairly obvious visual metaphor of this relationship that's a bit fractious or starting to fall apart, but they keep being kind of fused together in a very kind of gross kind of way. So very interesting to see how that comes together. It's a fairly quiet month for streaming in July, but there are a few things to keep an eye out for. To start with, at the beginning of the month, we have The Old Guard 2. Now, The Old Guard 1 was a surprise hit for the distributor Netflix. It was an action film with Charlize Theron at the centre, kind of riding on the high of Mad Max Fury Road. It was this kind of efficient, thumping, kind of strange lightly fantastical action movie, and it was popular enough that it's got a sequel many years too late. But if you're looking for something kind of simple, solid action, I do feel like the pedigree of the first suggests that we'll probably be looking at something good here too. Now, the second and final season of The Sandman is also dropping. Now, this is the obviously the show that is based on the character created by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is currently mired in a fair amount of deserved controversy, and I think that has probably meant that most of the things that are built around his ideas are kind of facing the chop as well, which I think is very much the case with The Sandman. It's a shame for the show, which was off to a fairly promising start, and I hear that the second season is good, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles in this situation, I guess. Too much. This is one that I have my eye on. It's a new streaming series that's coming to us from Lena Dunham. And Lena Dunham hasn't done much since Girls that has really made a big splash, but this looks like it could be a bit of a return to form, a bit of a similar kind of vibe to Girls. That said, she did make a really lovely film called Catherine Called Birdie, which I recommend you should check out. This show has Megan Stelter at the front, and she is a comedian who has been on the rise for a while. Very funny, very funny woman, and it's nice to see her at the heart of something like this. It looks like it's got the kind of frame of a fairly traditional romantic comedy. It's about a New Yorker starting a new life in London, and after a really disastrous breakup and finding a new connection. But it has a really strong cast. It's got Emily Ratajkowski, who is very much an it girl, has been for years. Richard E. Grant is in there. Adele Exarchopoulos from Blue is the Warmest Colour and Passages, and a whole bunch of other great things. And a whole bunch of other really great actors are in there. So the trailers look quite promising for something that looks light and fun, and like perhaps a bit of a return to form for Lena Dunham. So that one's worth keeping an eye out for. The Summer I Turned Pretty. Now, this is a series that in my other life as a librarian, I know that this is the book series that teenage girls go absolutely gaga for, and this series has been very popular as well. Now, it's reached its final season, so for those of you who have been watching the show, I'm sure you'll be waiting on bated breath for that final season. I know many teenage girls at my school where I work sometimes will be among them. Now, the movie that I am most excited for on streaming, Happy Gilmore 2. It is the return of one of Adam Sandler's most beloved characters. It's always nice to see the Sandman kind of having a bit of fun. He's become a bit more of a serious actor in his old age, but I think he still has a lot to give for just the traditional comedy. And this one is building on one of the best and most beloved of his comedies as well. So that one, there's a lot to look forward to there. Now, right at the end of the month, 28th of July, Rialto Channel is premiering a really special film called La Cocina. This film comes to us by Alonso Ruiz Palacios, and it is a Spanish film that's shot in New York. It's set in a back kitchen in Times Square. Undocumented immigrants, including a cook named Pedro. He gets caught up in a relationship with a waitress called Julia, who is played by the great Rooney Mara. And in amidst that, there's all the kind of tension that is surrounding the issue of undocumented immigrants in America. This one looks like it melds really topical issues with the popularity of something like The Bear or something like that. It's shot in black and white. It's a very beautiful looking film, and it looks very moving and like it has a lot to say about the current issues as well. So keep an eye out for that one. I think this one's going to be one that really sticks with you. Now, coming up right at the end of the month, 31st of July, it is the opening night of Christmas for moviegoers in New Zealand, the New Zealand International Film Festival, my favourite time of year. 31st of July, the opening night film, Jafar Panahi's Palme d'Or winner, It Was Just an Accident. How exciting is that? I'm really, really pumped. I've had a little sneak peek at the films coming up at the festival this year. It is an excellent lineup. We will be doing a deep dive on this next month, but in the meantime, I do want to urge you, if you have not already, get in on those pre-sale 10-trip multi-passes, because those are the best deal you're going to get to go and see some of the best cinema in the world on the beautiful Mighty Civic screen or some of our great cinemas around Auckland. It is well worth the time. Some of the films that have been released, I've had the pleasure of being able to write about them for the program. There are some really, really, really mint ones in there. David Cronenberg's The Shrouds, Kleber Mendonça, Philos, The Secret Agent. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has got a 4K re-release, which is absolutely horrifying and beautiful and amazing. Blue Moon, Richard Linklater's really profound theatrical film. A whole bunch of other really, really special ones, including a range of New Zealand premieres that will be absolutely worth watching. Gayleen Preston is releasing a new film, Grace, A Prayer for Priest. Kelly Reichardt, a new film, but from her, The Mastermind. We haven't even got the whole program yet, so it's a very, very exciting time. As I say, we will be doing a deep dive on this next month, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, we have plenty of goodies to give away over at viewmag.co.nz. Head over there if you want to get some swag or you want to get some tickets to things and that kind of thing. There is plenty on offer there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please remember to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and come and see us next month for more movie action. Thank you so much. Ka kite.